Hello and welcome to Elizabeth Magical Garden, a magical garden reaching for the stars.
Hey guys, welcome back. Be sure to check out the show notes at the bottom of this recording because I usually have a lot of cute little tidbits along the way, and you also get to follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Magical Garden. All the information will be down below. Hi, my name is Elizabeth from Elizabeth Magical Garden, a magical garden reaching for the stars, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Be sure to check out all the links down below so you can subscribe to the podcast channel at Elizabeth Magical Garden Podcast, as well as my vlog channel where I am documenting my gray hair journey and so much more, guys. Welcome back, guys. It's springtime. It's springtime, and are you feeling a little woo-woo? Are you feeling a little empty? Are you feeling a little confused? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Well, guess what? Today's topic, we're going to be discussing reconnecting with goddess energy. Now, I have discussed in so many other episodes why it's important to incorporate this type of practice into your life. Yes, I believe in God, but I also believe and know that God is both masculine and feminine. Okay. Yes, I know that a lot of, especially in a Christian faith, they look at God as, it's always about the male because of Jesus, and that's the focus. But it doesn't say that feminine energy does not exist. 2016 was a year where I changed the way I looked at my spiritual practice for a very, very long time. I have toyed with the notion of being a Christian and just being in the faith. And I even came back to Christianity. Yes, I did. And it was going good. It was going great for a very long time. Well, long enough. But what I didn't count on was that I cannot unknow what I know. I cannot unknow the very existence that saved my life, dare I say. Because it wasn't until I connected with the divine did I truly feel at one with God. I feel like a lot of people are only geared towards one aspect of life. Even with our brain, you got the left brain, you got the right brain. And what is it in terms of, I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me, in terms of like business, money, I am assuming is like right brain. I believe is right brain, and left brain for like people like myself that are artists, musicians, and so forth, right? And that aspect of the brain is connected with the divine energy. Yes, because, anything feminine usually incorporates love, music, art, color, self-expression, right? Whereas the other one is get it done, masculine energy, get it done, move forward, create, build, destroy, right? And it's not to say that masculine energy is not good. I mean, I'm sitting here, excuse me, by the grace of God, thank you, Lord, that I am covered, right? Because more than likely a man created the papers, right, to build my home, to build a lot of things, probably to build this mic, probably was a black person. But anyway, because, black people, we have created a lot of things that they, patent a lot of things that, is not spoken about. But that's a whole nother topic. I digress with a lot of the things that we consume, we see, that we use, came a lot of times from masculine energy. And that is a good thing. But what about the feminine energy? What about, you know, love? What about homemakers? What about the colors that we see? What about nature? Okay. Mother Nature, hence Mother Nature, right? That's all from the divine feminine. And I just feel like it's really important for us to be reconnected with that energy in order to see true happiness in life. You know, I know for a fact, at least this has been and is um my personal experience, that God meets you where you need to be met. And if you have to approach God through feminine energy, so that's where God would be. If you need to approach God through masculine energy, that's where God will be. God is both man and female. He created us in his image. When you go to, I believe, Genesis in the beginning, there is I don't remember exactly the verse, but there is a slither of a verse that states that he and she, like I'm not saying it in the exact way, but if you go all the way in the beginning, you will see what I'm saying. And they don't really discuss this aspect because the focus is especially in the New Testament, Jesus, right? Depending on your faith, because I believe the Old Testament is more towards the Jewish faith, if I'm not mistaken. And everything is masculine. And when we do discuss women, it's always under the regime of masculinity. It's never really in the forefront. It's never in the forefront really, unless it's about the submission of the individual towards the masculine energy, right? And there's nothing wrong with being submissive, but there's nothing wrong with being masculine as well. A man can be submissive as well. I know that it's not celebrated and it's always taught to be seen in one way, effeminate, if a man is connected to his feminine energy. And I personally believe this is why a lot of men suffers from a lot of mental illness nowadays, because that is not healthy. That is not healthy, that a man cannot feel confident in himself because he is connected to his feminine energy, right? Just like it's also not healthy for a woman to be too connected to her masculine energy. I know for me, that is a sensitive area, okay? Because for years that has been my struggle, was my struggle. Now I feel like I have a happy medium. I cannot not be who I am, and I feel like it has a lot to do with my sign. I'm a Gemini, okay, by the way, just in case you wanted to know. Gemini, sun, moon, Virgo, and rising Sagittarius. Bomb over here, okay? With that being said, Geminis are it's a masculine energy, and I really feel like with Geminis, it's really interesting, right? Because if you're a woman and you're a Gemini, you tend to have like that androgynous, like that kind of like masculine energy. Hence, who can I just tell you so you get it right away? Angelina Jolie, she's a Gemini. Love her. Angelina Jolie is a Gemini. She exudes that sexy androgynous type of energy, because she's a beautiful woman, but it kind of gives off like kind of like that masculinity as well. She's very harmonious, in my humble opinion, in that area. Let me give you a male that is giving you masculine, but kind of like feminine energy. I would say Lenny Kravitz. Lenny, that's my husband. I love him. Just saying. Okay, Lenny Kravitz, genius, a musician, by the way. Him and Prince, him too. But Lenny Kravitz exudes what I would say that masculine, very masculine, but is very comfortable in his feminine energy as well. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with in this discussion? And these two individuals, Prince too, these three individuals that I just discussed, I feel like are really great. And by the way, both Lenny Kravitz and Prince, Prince was a Gemini, and Lenny Kravitz is a Gemini as well. Because Geminis are the Gemini sign, it's said that it's a masculine sign. I feel like depending on if it's a woman or a man, it kind of promotes the other side because it's dual energies, right? But going back to the divine energy, I feel like once you allow yourself to get in and be reconnected with this particular energy and pay homage to it, you able yourself to be centered. You able yourself to receive. You able yourself to receive divine intervention, because now you're listening from another ear. You know, they say a lot of musicians are able to hear things that a regular person, whatever normal is, may not be able to hear. And I don't think it's so much that a person that doesn't play an instrument is not able to hear certain tones. It's just that the ear is not trained. Because now some people are able to, they have that ear naturally. They're gifted, like Prince, like Lenny Kravitz. I feel like these two individuals, I wouldn't put them like regular degular. These people are gifted in that way. But there's a lot of people that, like myself, I dabble in playing with guitars. I have an electric guitar and also an acoustic guitar. And I noticed that at first it was like, but the more you play the instruments and the more you get familiar with the different notes, you start to hear. You're training the ear. And this goes right back into, when you are connected with the divine energy. We need this in our lives to be harmonious. Too much of anything on one area is never good for yourself mentally, physically, nor emotionally. And I find that we live in a society where it's masculine energy all the way, and it has there's no room for feminine energy. It's almost like if you do partake in any feminine area, you're looked upon less than or almost like a failure. And that is a diseased mentality, right? Because you need the masculine and feminine energy in order to create something beautiful. How do you think that we got here, right? Because a man and a woman came together and it birthed a life. Life happens when you are harmoniously connected to the divine feminine. And how can we implement this belief system in our lives for those who may not be familiar of what I speak? Well, the easiest way and the fastest way to get into and be reconnected with the divine is going in nature. You guys know I was going to say that probably. Going out in nature, getting grounded, taking your shoes off and walking on the grass. Now, this is especially for those who live in the northern hemisphere, this is the perfect time for you because the weather is breaking. Listen, the birds are chirping. Don't get me started, okay? The birds are chirping, the weather is breaking, and it's allowing us to be reconnected to the divine feminine, right? Because we were, especially if you live in the city, shout out to the people that, excuse me, you got your backyard, you got your beautiful homes. Shout out to you, put an extra blessing for the ones that are, working towards that dream. I know I am. That is something definitely that I'm working towards, towards. Praise God. And being able to take off your shoes, going out in nature, just sitting, shutting off your phones. Yep. Shutting off your phones. And if you can't, cause everybody was like, oh, shut off your phone and, get reconnected. Yes, that is something that you should always make time for. But if you can't, or you feel like you don't have the wherewithal to do so, sit out in nature while you listen to a podcast, while you listen to this podcast. Sit out in nature, get some vitamin D. Hence, I just bought me some vitamin D the other day because, when I got my physical last year, I was vitamin D deficient, which I feel like a lot of us are. So vitamin D is something that is very, very important. Not only does it really play a big part for healthy skin, healthy hair, healthy bones, it also has a lot to do with your moods. You might be feeling a little low, a little sad, a little without, because it could be something as simple of not having enough vitamin D. So I would say, of course, check with your doctor, but incorporate vitamin D supplements into your diet. And going out in nature is the easiest way to receive that vitamin D, especially if you lived in the northern hemisphere where sun wasn't as privy, okay? Because the sun was coming out. Well, it was coming out, but not like it's showing out now. You know what I mean? So going out in nature, just watching how nature goes. I remember being 14 and that was when I fell in love with nature. Like I'm a true nature girl. I feel like honestly, everything that I ever needed to learn was because I looked at the Nature Channel. Shout out to the people that used to watch Channel 13, the Nature Channel. You remember that? Do they still have that network? Anyway, shout out to them because I learned everything I needed to know about life, about people through nature. I kid you not. And it hasn't been a time that I personally went out and sat and watched, this nature and how it unfolds that I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel calm. That's what the divine will do. It would envelop you and make you feel safe. Think about it. When you was a little girl, when you was a little boy, you got a little boo-boo, you went to your parents or your loved ones and they kissed that boo-boo, hopefully, right? And for those who are blessed to have somebody that loved them and you felt so good. You felt loved. Does it mean that boo-boo stopped hurting? You know what? It kind of felt like it did. It felt like it was no longer as painful because mentally you received something. You got something from the heart. The divine feminine is a way to be reconnected to the heart. And in the atmosphere of everything that is happening in the world, this is even more of the time where we need to be reconnected with the divine energy. you know, because how can we be of good fruit to anyone if we don't feel the love within ourselves? You know, a lot of the times when we are at odds with one another is because we are in pain. We don't feel heard. We don't feel seen. You know, so we lash out at one another because we are in pain. We feel alienated. You know what they say, when you back a cat into the wall, guess what it's going to do? It's going to scratch. It's going to claw at you, right? And because we're clawing at each other, because we're starving for love. We're starving to be reconnected with ourselves. You know, going on Instagram and scrolling and getting those like quick endorphins with like somebody liked your page or whatever. Child, I haven't been on Instagram for months. Since this, I haven't posted for months. Like if I scroll, it maybe be for a little bit and I just get off. I'm so sensitive to the hours that can swipe by. Child, I'm 51 years old. Okay. I'm here to live the life. I'm not here to just live it in my phone. Okay. Excuse me. No, thank you. Right? And these things happen over the course of time that we don't even realize how disconnected we are to ourselves, nevertheless, the divine energy. So light that candle, you know, get that incense, you know what I mean? Get that oil, you know, rub your body, get connected, run that bath, put them petals in that bath water. Get sexy. Feel good. Because every time you adorn yourself, every time you take time, to write in your journal, to just sit down and just be still, that is you being reconnected with that divine source. And I kid you not, it doesn't take much for you to feel good. You know what I mean? Women. We don't have to do much. We don't have to do much. We don't have to do much in order to be us. That's the beauty of being a woman. That's part of it, right? I mean, there's a lot of other things, but we're going to keep it light today. So the next time you're feeling a little empty, a little out of sorts, try it. Try what I speak of. Go out, make a lovely meal for yourself. Make a lovely meal and invite a loved one. Shower somebody else with some love. How about that? A lot of times, they say it's better to give than to receive. That's a real thing. That is a real thing. Bring your neighbor a plate. Share, send a card to a business partner, thank them for, the last time you had lunch with them. I leave it up to you. I'm just throwing things out there. Okay. Do something kind for somebody else. That's another way to be reconnected with the divine energy, and for those who may say, well, I believe in God and that's it. Okay. Leave that money on the table. Do you? But for the ones, the ones that are under the sound of my voice, I think it's safe to say that you run with what I'm saying or you feeling it, So I just want to share that with you guys. Be sure to check the links down below so you can subscribe to this podcast. Oh my God, podcast channel, which is Elizabeth Magical Garden Podcast, as well as subscribe to my vlog channel where I am documenting my gray hair journey, guys. Come on, be part of the vibes. If not, just cheer me on because your girl is still human. We need all the help that we could get. But most importantly, guys, stay blessed, stay safe, and stay empowered. Peace.
Hey guys, leave a comment, a review, preferably 5 stars. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram because what is popping over there? And also check out my YouTube channel to stay connected and see your girl's lovely face. Guys, I love you so much. Keep on pushing, and I'll definitely speak to you soon. Be blessed.